Good evening, and thank you for watching Community Forum. My name is Irina Yakovleva, and I will be your guest host this evening. On today's program, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Chris Mascetta, the founder and director of Ridgefield Chiropractic and Wellness Center. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much, Irina. I'm very much looking forward to speaking with you tonight.
Thank you.
And having the opportunity to be on the show.
So to start off, could you tell me a little bit more about yourself and where you're from and your background?
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Dr. Chris Mascetta, and I grew up in Carmel, New York, in Putnam County. And I have a practice in Ridgefield, Connecticut, called Ridgefield Chiropractic and Wellness Center. And the exciting news, we just celebrated 15 years there in the same spot. So that's been great. And so we live in Danbury, and I have two little girls, 9 and 15, and I've been married 15 years now. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. It's been good.
And where did you go to college?
I went to college. I was a health science major. I completed my pre-medicine training at Cortland State University of New York.
SUNY.
Yeah, SUNY school.
I went to SUNY Geneseo.
Oh, okay, yeah. Great school. It's a very good school. Cortland was just a perfect spot for me. It gave me the background I really needed, and I went to chiropractic college in Dallas, Texas at Parker College of Chiropractic.
Okay.
And graduated there in '97, so I've been out quite a while now.
So what made you decide to be a sports chiropractor?
To be a sports chiropractor? Well, there was a lot of different reasons. One of the things, obviously, is I enjoy athletics, and I enjoy sports. And there's certain sports that I really, enjoy as well and wanted to, participate more in. Things I work a lot with motocross riders. Track and field is a sport that I really enjoy. And we see a variety of different athletes in the office. But probably the main reason I became a sports chiropractor was the opportunity to work with younger athletes and introduce chiropractic to athletes at a younger age. I firmly believe that chiropractic is very important for all athletes of all ages. And the reason for that is, with sports, especially today, sports have become such an upper level, and the competitive nature of it is increasing even at younger ages. So working with children athletes, I feel is really important because it reduces the risk of injury. The repetitive nature of sports, they can be developing injuries that they're not even aware of that can bother them into adulthood. So starting something like chiropractic at a younger age, I feel is very, very important. It works on improving their performance as an athlete, but also helps keep them safer, reducing the risk of injury. And then obviously we have the opportunity to work with injuries as they occur.
Okay, so you're saying you wanted to work with sports. Did you play any sports growing up?
I did, yeah. I grew up playing football. I ran track and field. Believe it or not, I ran the high hurdles, which I look back now and it's hard for me to imagine that I did that. And I ran in college. I ran it at Cortland State. And
very competitive.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And it was a Division III program, which was great because I could still really focus on school, but getting to continue to run in track was great, and at the college level. I also raced motocross. Motocross is off-road motorcycle racing.
And
you
that's
still
do that?
I don't. I have a practice, which maybe we'll talk a little bit about in a little bit. I provide chiropractic care to some of the top motocross riders in the world. So I travel around, the events are all throughout the country, and we provide chiropractic care at that level. And that's very exciting, especially being a fan of the sport and getting to practice at that level and see it make a difference in them is very exciting.
Yes, and I'm sure knowing the sport, it gives you a different perspective and to treat your patients.
Yeah, it definitely does. It means a lot to them knowing that my background is in motocross racing, so I can really understand what they're going through the day of an event, as well as their training. And then having the sports chiropractic certification means a lot to them, especially with a professional athlete. They like to know that they're working with somebody who does have more experience.
So you're saying a sports chiropractor, correct?
Yes.
What is the difference between a sports chiropractor and a regular chiropractor?
Yeah, well, it's the additional training. So it's what's called a certified chiropractic sports physician, and I did a board certification through the American Board of Chiropractic Sports Physicians. And what that consists of, it's I forget the exact number of hours, but I think it's between 100 to 150 additional credit hours.
Okay.
It's 10 to 15 different weekend courses at 10 hours each weekend. And you study different topics, obviously, each weekend, and it's followed by a board certification exam. So you have to complete a minimal amount of those hours, take the board certification, and pass it, and get the title of a certified certified sports chiropractor.
How long is the schooling to become a chiropractor in general? So you were saying it's additional 150 hours,
right.
But how long is the program?
The program to become a chiropractor is the same as medical school.
Okay.
It's a 4-year academic program. Most of the schools offer it in 3 years, so we do 3 semesters a year instead of 2. So that we've completed that last year in 3 years. But it's a doctoral program. It's a physician-based program. So you can go to a chiropractor. And they're basically a primary level physician. So you go, we do an examination, come up with a diagnosis, and can recommend a treatment plan to treat your condition.
Okay, so you went straight after school. You went to
chiropractic school.
Chiropractic.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that's the right way.
Yeah. So I did my pre-med
Okay.
in health science at Cortland, 4-year degree, and then went to chiropractic school.
And then where was your first job? Did you come straight to Ridgefield?
I did, actually, to Danbury.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for a group of chiropractors in Danbury right out of school, and was with them for I think a year or 2, and then practiced in Brewster for a little while, and then opened the practice in Ridgefield, and that was 15 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Thank you. It's a big milestone, I think, for any small business. So we're very excited to achieve that.
And how many chiropractors do you have working?
Well, I'm the only chiropractor in the office.
Okay.
I do have a chiropractor who does some nutrition work. When needed, she'll come in and see some patients. But we also have an acupuncturist in the office, and we have 2 massage therapists. So, we're really a wellness-centered office. Yeah.
And you open every single day, or?
Yeah, most days. We're there Monday through Friday. I take Thursday off, and it's kind of an administrative day. I get caught up on paperwork.
Okay.
During the summer, it's a family day. We try to take our day vacations on those days. But yeah, they're long days. I'm there pretty much from 9 to 7. Usually don't leave the office about 8:30 at night. You have a lot of people commuting, so we have extended hours, and then we work.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find someone that's available after 5 o'clock, which is ironic. But there's so many times where I've had to take a personal day or something to
see a doctor, right?
To see the doctor. Yes.
Yeah, we try to make it as convenient as we can for. A lot of kids in school with athletics, they don't get done until 4 or 5 o'clock. People may not get back home until 5, 6, even 7 o'clock. And I'll stay in the office as late as we need to. If I know somebody's coming in and they need to be seen, we do what we have to do to provide care.
I've heard that a lot more Americans are actually getting chiropractic care now.
Right.
I think a while ago it was about 2%, and now it grew to 8%.
Right. And it should
So
be
do you
really.
see that?
Yeah, we're seeing the trend. It's a growing field. I mean, the benefits are just fantastic, and anybody who's been to a chiropractor can contest to that. But I think it's very still widely just not understood, fully. And but when you do go, you see the benefits, and especially with sports. We really work on the performance of the athlete, and they can see a difference.
So what are the benefits of chiropractic care?
Well, it's based on improving the function of the nervous system. Okay, and the nervous system controls every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. So if you have a misalignment in the spine, so you just improved your posture, take some of the stress off your spine. If you get what's called a subluxation, and subluxation is when you get a misalignment of a vertebrae or a group of vertebrae, it interferes with the function of the nervous system. And the nervous system, like I think I just said, controls every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. So if you have any miscommunication between the central nervous system, which is your brain and your spine, to the periphery of the body, it reduces the function. And we want it to work optimally, especially in sports. So we look for these misalignments, and we apply a gentle force, which is called an adjustment, correct that misalignment, and restores neurological function. So with athletes, part of the most important thing that we do is we improve the sensory nervous system, the system that controls body awareness, positional sense, where your body is in relationship to space. It improves reaction times. A lot of the athletes I do pre-event, adjusting the spine, improving the flexibility and the function, like the rib heads, improves the function of the chest cavity, which makes it easier to breathe. So you get oxygen in and out of the body a lot easier. Like I said, improves reaction times, body awareness. It makes you a lot looser. It reduces the tightness and spasm in the muscles, increases range of motion, especially like cervical range of motion. Is great. So all those things benefit, the athlete. And
So how do you get a misalignment?
there's a lot of different ways, and obviously
know
in
you have
sports,
it?
how do you know? Well, you got to go to a
How do you know it's
chiropractor.
time for you
And a lot
to
of people
go
will
to
feel
the
it,
chiropractor?
especially with athletes. Especially the better the athlete is, they're a lot more in tune with their bodies, and they can feel when they're out and misaligned. And when I'm working with pro athletes or elite athletes, they know, and they know specifically where we need to work and where we need to function. But you know, you'll feel tightness. You may feel some muscle spasm. You may feel some restriction in the spine and movements. Obviously, pain. You may feel some pain in the neck or the lower back or the shoulder, the arms. I do, as a sports chiropractor, a lot of extremity work. It's a lot of our training. It's concentrating on like the upper extremities and lower extremities. So you basically feel it. You just may not feel 100%.
So pains, any strains, abnormal movements,
Yeah.
all of those could be.
High shoulder, low shoulder, head tilt, that's all signs that there's some misalignment in spine or asymmetries in the muscles. Muscles may be tighter on one side. Because when you have a subluxation, it affects different tissues. So first we talk about it affecting the nervous system and interfering with the function of the nervous system.
So that affects your brain too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And when we do adjustments, there's a really concise sensory input that shoots up and fires the brain and really wakes up the brain. You know, if you do a functional MRI pre and post an adjustment, you'll see the brain light up, especially like the frontal cortex, which increases higher thinking, cognition, thought patterns.
Your focus, concentration.
Yeah, and then it creates a motor response, which improves the function of the muscles.
Yes.
Again, which helps an athlete.
Okay.
You know, so, but the other tissues are involved is, you know, it can be initially disc wear, you know, where it starts wearing the intervertebral discs, which can lead to bulging or herniations. Increased motor tone onto the muscles, which makes them tighten up, may make them go into spasm, which may make some asymmetries in the body that can add to a high shoulder or a high hip. The ligaments are under increased strain, so they can get kind of fibrotic tissue or adhesions, limiting range of motion in the spine. And one of the last things we see is you start seeing arthritic changes in the bone. So seeing a chiropractor, although it's great for pain, it's also great for improving function and reducing degeneration, reducing the onset of scar tissue in the muscles and the ligaments and arthritis and things like that.
So it could be a preventive care.
Absolutely.
As well as
yeah, and that's one of the things that attracted me to chiropractic, because as a pre-med major, you know, when as a health science student, we learned about the healthcare system. And the healthcare system is really expensive. And the way to drive down healthcare costs is to maintain the health of the community through lifestyle choices. But when I started looking into medical schools, it was all about sick care. Our healthcare system is really a sick care model. It kicks into effect once the illness is there, once the injury is there. And when I found chiropractic, especially as an athlete, that was secondary. Primary, the number one thing that chiropractors want to do is keep you healthy. Yeah, keep you healthy, improve, you know, we talk a lot about improved lifestyle, you know, nutrition, ergonomics, you know, stretching, you know, reducing the stress in your life, you know, the importance of meditation or prioritizing things. Don't worry about the small stuff, you know, don't sweat the small stuff. It's a great book. You know, so it really is holistic, and to try to maintain the health of the patient, improve the health of the patient. So
I recently ran a marathon. It was my first marathon.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's a great, great accomplishment.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. And right before I saw a chiropractor because I had some upper neck pain. And after I got treatment, I also had some acupuncture. I noticed that, well, the pain was a lot better, but besides that, I was breathing easier. Yeah. And my overall time improved, my running improved, and just I felt like I was more aware of my running and my breathing. Is that a normal result with runners?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why, you know, most athletes want to continue with chiropractic care, is that in performance. When I work with an athlete, we're looking at three things. Through the chiropractic care, I want to improve their performance as an athlete. And when I'm working with elite athletes, that's what they're really concerned about. They want to be better. Like I was saying, I work with pro motocross riders.
Everyone always wants to be better.
Exactly, exactly. And you improve that performance, it's going to reduce the risk of injury.
Okay.
You know, and then we will work with injuries as they occur. And some athletes are going to occur more than others, but that almost comes secondary to the other things. Now, when I'm working with amateur athletes, they're usually more concerned with pain. Just make me feel better. And usually that they're overtraining, or they're not training properly, or they're a weekend warrior, and they tend to hurt themselves.
So how do you know when you're overtraining? You just
the body will tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely see, and
that's worse than
Yeah, I always tell patients, look, if you don't give you a proper rest day is as important as a training day or hard training day.
It's another preventative measure.
Yeah, because if you don't give your body rest, the body's going to force you into rest through either an injury or illness. So you got to find that balance. And working with pro athletes, they know that balance. They know when to take time off, and they know when time to hit it really hard. And the chiropractic helps them with that. And it's not just about the chiropractic. I work with them nutritionally. When I'm at the races, the motocross races, it's making sure they're getting proper nutrition, that they're hydrating. I'm really providing rider support services to them. And I'm talking to them, motivating them, getting them to get excited if they had like a bad practice session or what we call a bad moto, trying to get them to forget about that and get back into the game and get them for the next time they're going to go out on the track and to do better. So it
that's
really is.
Motor Care Chiropractic.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? When did you begin Motor Care Chiropractic? And I know you are a motor ride enthusiast, so that probably drove you to do that.
It absolutely did. When my first introduction to chiropractic was when I was racing motocross in the mid '80s, and
where were you doing that?
Mostly in like the Mid-Hudson area, little upstate New York, and then into Pennsylvania and the surrounding states. And I was an amateur. I was never really very good, but I was very passionate about it. I've always loved the sport. And I was first introduced to chiropractic by a chiropractor called Dr. Jeff Spencer, and he worked with, back in the '80s, the top motocross riders, and he used to write articles in the magazines. And I was like, what is this chiropractic? And but I knew that motocross riders were very open to chiropractic and utilizing them. So when I became a chiropractor, I knew there was always that possibility.
Right.
So I think about 2007, 2008, I told my wife, I was like, I want to get back into motocross. And her first response was, well, do you want a divorce? I'm like, no, not actually as a rider. I knew, practicing chiropractic and having a young family, those days were probably over because the risk of injury is pretty high, and I can't,
what
risk
type of
my
injury?
hands. We see a lot of herniated discs, a lot of fractures in the collarbone, a lot of wrist fractures, knees, things like that. So as a chiropractor, obviously, I just can't risk those types of injuries.
Right.
But I decided to start this practice with the goal of working at the upper levels of chiropractic. In motocross. So it was back in about 2007. And we've just been gradually building it. And like I said, we're working with some of the top guys in the world, working, rider support services primarily in chiropractic.
Do you work with a team in specific, or how do you?
Yeah, I'll go usually with maybe a group of riders who use me on a regular basis, but I offer my care to anybody who's racing at the pro level, and the great part of that is I provide a complimentary, which a lot of people are really surprised. Well, how can you do that and not charge for it? Well, the reason is that although they're pro athletes, most of them aren't making a lot of money. The top guys are making a ton of money. Everybody else, they're probably making a good living. Some of them are just getting by. So I wanted to take the financial aspect out of it. So I work on donations. I work on sponsors, crowd fundraising. I try to raise money that way. So that way, when I work with a rider, because always, especially if they're a younger rider, the first question is, how much does it cost? And they're relieved when they realize that financial aspect.
What is the average age of a
motocross rider? We can turn, well, a lot of the top level amateurs may turn pro, 16, 17, 18 years old. They start hitting their peak probably in their late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
And
so younger.
Yeah, younger, and probably, they usually have like a 10 to 12 year
So
career.
Is your body more resilient then? Can
Yeah,
you bounce
absolutely.
back faster if you do get an injury?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were saying one of the common injuries for motocross riders is a herniated disc?
Yeah, sure.
So I've heard of that before.
Right.
Can you describe what that is exactly?
Sure. Yeah, a herniated disc is, we have the spine here.
Yes.
The discs are the pieces of cartilage in between the vertebrae. And they have a few different functions. One is they act like a shock absorber. So we have 3 curves in the spine, and we have 24 of these discs, and they act like a shock absorber. But they don't, if you have a subluxation and a fixation, see the discs get their nutrients not through blood supply, but through fluids that are around them. And as long as we have normal motion and normal weight bearing, they stay nice and healthy. But if you get a fixation and the disc starts to dehydrate a little bit, it starts to get thinner and starts to break down and spread out. And pressure always goes from high to low, right? So if you have an area of that disc that's starting to break down and spread out, when it's under pressure, that area starts to bulge out. And it starts as what's called a bulging disc, but then it can expand into what's called a herniated disc or a pronated disc, and that is, it looks actually like this. You can see it right there. It squeezes out and hits the nerve. And once it hits the nerve, it causes a lot of pain. And chiropractic is a great treatment option for these, because what we do is, we first work on pain relief, reducing some of the pressure in there, but then through chiropractic adjustments and traction, we do a lot of traction to pull that disc into more of a central position, open up the space, relieving the pressure off the nerves. But then continued care, we continue to work on the spine to take some of that pressure off of it so it doesn't continue to push out. And then obviously rehab, we want to strengthen the spine, strengthen the core, and take some of the pressure off. And a lot of times with athletes, even if they're pro athletes, it doesn't mean necessarily that they have a really strong core. So they may be really strong everywhere else, but they may have some intrinsic muscular
imbalances. And your core
imbalances.
is everything that's holding the center of your body.
Exactly.
And it's obviously connected to all your nerves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so really, chiropractic is a great option for anybody with a herniated disc, and we see them all the time in the office. We have people who literally crawl into the office and walk out, and then obviously it does take some care to really get them back.
So in order to prevent that for a professional or an amateur athlete, how often should they see a chiropractor?
Well, it really varies, depending on their level of the condition that they're coming in with. When somebody comes into the office, we start with a very thorough examination. And there's three things I'm looking for, three questions I want to answer. Number one, is it something that I can help you with? Okay? If it is, obviously we go forward. If it's not, then we'll make the appropriate referral. I work with a lot of doctors in the community. We'll make the right referral. If it is something that we feel as if we can help, we want to diagnose it correctly. Because if we diagnose it correctly, we know specifically what we need to do and we'll come up with a treatment plan. Okay. So depending on that diagnosis and where they are in their care, will dictate how long or how many visits they may need. The third thing we look for is, what's the patient looking for from me as their chiropractor, as their doctor, or looking for from the office? Are they looking for more acute relief, or are they looking for more longer term care? So if it's somebody who doesn't have a lot of pain, obviously they may not need to come in as often as somebody who's in an acute situation. If they're in an acute situation, it may sometimes be daily or 3 times a week or twice a week for a certain period of time. If it's purely wellness-based care or performance-based care, maybe it's less often. Initially maybe we'll see them on a weekly basis and then try to spread it out and get them. We'll find the right amount of balance
and
that
how
they
long
still
does
feel
that
as if.
appointment last for about?
Well, the first visit is usually about an hour because we're doing a lot. Start with the history and
diagnosing them.
Yeah.
Do you need to do an MRI?
Well, it depends.
Sometimes?
Yeah, it depends. Usually, most of the time, we don't need an MRI. Chiropractors rely a lot on X-rays. I don't like to X-ray too much unnecessarily. If there's something in there that I'm concerned about, we'll X-ray. But typically through my assessment, I could find subluxation without relying on the X-ray. We have some specialized equipment in the office that looks at muscle tonicity and symmetry and things like that. There's different orthopedic tests, neurological tests, postural evaluations to find the subluxation. Now if I suspect a pathology or a herniated disc and I think that an MRI may change the outcome, then we'll do an MRI. But in most cases we can do what we need to do without them.
Okay. So if someone's coming in for chiropractic or preventive care, or an amateur pro athlete, you also provide nutritional programs,
yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that nutrition is the secret weapon of a lot of athletes. In a pro level athlete, their nutrition is going to be on target. Amateurs maybe not quite as much, and it's so funny because when I'm at an amateur motocross event, you'll see these kids standing in line for a hamburger before they go out and race. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to change that. So, I'll do a lot of counseling in the office and direction on what they should be eating on a general basis every day. And we'll talk a lot about nutrition on the race day or day of competition, what they should be eating. There's different things you should eat throughout the course of the day. So maybe 4 hours before an event should be really the majority of your meal. You can have a larger meal, your proteins and carbos, and because by the time the event comes, you're going to be breaking that down. As the event gets closer, obviously you want to start changing what you're eating. So maybe within 2 hours of the event, you may want to have more like complex carbohydrates, things like bagels, whole wheat bagels, or fruit or some vegetables, maybe some yogurt, things like that aren't that heavy on the body. As the event gets closer, then you want more. That's when you want maybe a little more Gatorade or like the stuff like
Right.
goo or
I had those a lot.
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
marathon
give you a
training. I know goo.
quick burst of energy.
Yes.
So keep your hydration up.
Gatorade.
In the office, we do some specialized testing for performance. We can do like micronutrient testing, which is really great. Micronutrients, things like vitamins and minerals in the body.
So if you're vitamin deficient,
exactly, yeah,
that
absolutely.
might actually help your chiropractic needs as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because
So
you
it's
may be
very
deficient in something and
yeah.
cause some symptoms. But for an athlete, improved performance. So we can very specifically find out exactly what they're deficient in, how they're deficient, and come up with a program to raise that. Also, food sensitivities or chemical sensitivities. There's great tests we can do to kind of determine that as well. All
So you've
based
been
on
doing this
performance.
for 15 years in Ridgefield Chiropractic and Wellness Center.
Yes.
So congratulations
Thank you
once
very
again.
much.
Where do you see yourself in the next 15 years?
15 years? Well, obviously, I would love to see the practice continue to grow. I would love to become, really the wellness center in the area. Continue with the chiropractic care, more of the acupuncture, massage. I would love to. We used to have a naturopath in the office, Dr. Deb Basio. She was with us about 2 or 3 years, and her practice just really expanded. So she's now down the road, and we still refer back and forth. Very, very closely. But I would love to have another naturopath, a nutritional specialist in the office. So I'd love to see those services grow.
Okay.
The sports chiropractic, obviously, I really enjoy, so I'd like to see that expand. The motor care chiropractic, I would love to see that expand. Right now we're really concentrating on more of the Northeast events, anywhere from maybe Maryland up through New York or Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, out towards like Pittsburgh. Those are the events that I'm doing. But as that practice grows and we can develop more support, I'd like to travel nationally through, across the country for those events. And,
so if someone wants to learn more information about the Chiropractic and Wellness Center or the Motor Care Chiropractic program, how should they contact you?
Well, they could always call me.
Okay.
My phone number is 203-431-1688, or they can go to my websites, ridgefieldchiropractic.com or motorcarechiropractic.com. We also have Facebook pages for both of those, those businesses, so which we would love more support on Facebook.
So thank you so much for being here with us and teaching us about chiropractic care and definitely how preventative it is and how it improves performance in athletes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to viewers for watching, and I will see you next time on Community Forum.